My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. It was 6 in the morning when I called my daughter and said, "Emma, we're going anywhere you want. Paris, Japan, Disney. Everything paid for." She asked if I was okay if I was crying. "I just won $45 million, sweetheart. But what did I do to get here?" Something so simple that anyone can repeat it. Stay until the end. I'm going to show you exactly how I turn meaningful numbers into a quantum bridge to abundance. And subscribe to the channel because this story will change the way you see manifestation. I never believed in luck. I believed in double shifts, overdue bills, sleepless nights staring at the ceiling of my Tampa apartment. 3 years after the divorce, my life had become a machine. Wake up at 5 in the morning, manage the warehouse, come home, eat something frozen, and fall into bed with that weight in my chest that has no name. The worst part? The calls with Emma. My 12-year-old daughter would ask when we were going to Disney, when I was going to visit her in Oregon, if she could take dance classes. And I lied. "Soon, sweetheart. Daddy's saving money." But the truth was brutal. After child support, rent, and basic bills, less than $300 a month remained. I felt like a ghost in my own life. A 42-year-old man watching his dreams evaporate. Until one night in March 2021, sleepless and desperate, I clicked on a video that would change everything. The video was called The Observer Effect: How Your Attention Creates Reality. I had clicked out of desperation, not curiosity. It was 2 in the morning and I had just calculated for the 10th time that at my current pace, I would never be able to pay for Emma's college. Never. The word echoed in my head like a sentence. The guy in the video talked about quantum physics with contagious excitement. He explained that at the subatomic level, particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until they are observed. Your conscious attention, he said, collapses possibilities into reality. You're not just living life, you're literally creating it every moment. I paused the video. My heart was beating differently. I spent the entire early morning falling down a rabbit hole. Videos about vibrational coherence, about Neville Goddard and living in the end, about how intentional repetition creates neural and energetic grooves. I learned it's not about empty positive thinking, it's about sustaining a specific emotional frequency. It's about making your nervous system believe that the desired future is already real. The next day at the warehouse, I could barely concentrate. During my lunch break, sitting in my old pickup in the parking lot, I had an idea that seemed both absurd and perfect. Numbers. Not random numbers. Numbers that meant something. Numbers that carried the frequency of the most important moments of my life. I grabbed a pen and a paper napkin. I started writing addresses. 714 North Maple Street, Chicago. My childhood home, where my dad taught me to ride a bike in the backyard. 23, apartment 23, where Sarah and I lived in our first year of marriage when we still laughed at everything. 31, East 31st Avenue, the hospital where Emma was born. I still remember the smell of antiseptic mixed with hope. 42, my age. The present. The starting point. 9, the house number in Oregon where Emma lives now. I looked at those scribbled numbers and felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't hope exactly. It was recognition. As if those numbers were a code, a secret language between me and the universe. That same afternoon, I left early and went to a gas station on Dale Mabry Highway. My hand trembled as I filled out the Powerball ticket. 7-14-23-31-42, Powerball 9. The clerk, a Filipino man about 60 years old, looked at me and smiled. "Lucky numbers?" "Numbers with meaning," I replied. He nodded slowly as if he understood something I was still discovering. "Those are the best kind." I left there with the ticket in my hand and a strange certainty. I had just done more than play the lottery. I had created a ritual. A bridge between who I was and who I could still be. But what I didn't know was how difficult it would be to cross that bridge. The first few weeks were easy. I played the same numbers every Tuesday and Friday, checked the results and moved on. But in the 3rd month, something began to crack. "Are you still playing those ridiculous numbers?" Mike, my warehouse colleague, laughed in my face during lunch. "Dude, you have a better chance of being struck by lightning twice than winning the lottery." I forced a smile, but that night, alone in the apartment, doubt crept in like smoke under the door. I was wasting $20 a week, $80 a month, money that could go to Emma. The voice in my head was relentless. "You're an idiot, a pathetic dreamer." That's when I remembered a phrase from the Neville Goddard video I had watched. "Persistence in the assumption creates the fact." I realized my mistake. I was playing the numbers, but I wasn't living in the frequency of victory. I was waiting anxiously, full of doubt. And doubt is a frequency opposite to manifestation. That night, sitting on the edge of the bed, I created a new protocol. It was no longer just about buying the ticket. It was about emotional anchoring. Every time I bought the ticket, I closed my eyes for 30 seconds right there at the gas station. I took 3 deep breaths, and then I felt my hand trembling holding the winning ticket. I heard Emma's voice screaming with joy on the phone. I smelled fresh coffee the morning after the win, that kind of morning where everything is different. I didn't visualize like watching a movie. I inhabited that moment. And every night, in the state between waking and sleeping, when I learned the subconscious mind is most receptive, I repeated in a low voice, "These numbers are my bridge. I'm already aligned. The victory already exists." I had transformed a game of chance into a quantum experiment. But the universe hadn't finished testing me yet. 6 months after starting the ritual, something strange happened. I was at Publix buying groceries when I bumped into Sarah, my ex-wife. We hadn't spoken in person since the divorce. We only exchanged short messages about Emma. My stomach turned. "John," she said, and there was something different in her voice. Not anger. Curiosity. "You seem different." "Different how?" "I don't know." "Lighter. Less." She searched for the word, defeated. That caught me by surprise. I hadn't lost weight. I hadn't changed jobs. I hadn't won the lottery, yet. But she was right. Something had changed inside me. The ritual had become my anchor. Tuesdays and Fridays were no longer ordinary days. They were sacred days. I woke up differently on those days. With purpose. Even when the bank account showed $284, even when the car made that strange noise I didn't have money to fix, I sustained the frequency. And small things began to change. An old warehouse client referred me for a Saturday consulting gig. An extra $400 a month. Nothing life-changing, but enough for me to breathe a little easier. Emma called me on a Sunday and said, "Dad, I love you. I just wanted you to know." No reason. Out of nowhere. I cried after I hung up. My neighbor knocked on my door offering tickets to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game he couldn't use. Free. I had never been to an NFL game. They were synchronicities. Small but undeniable. But the strongest sign came in the 10th month. I was at the gas station the same as always, filling out my ticket. The Filipino man, I discovered his name was Carlos, looked at me with that gentle smile. "You still play the same numbers?" "Always," I replied. "You know," he said, leaning over the counter, "I've worked here for 17 years. I've seen a lot of people playing the lottery. But you're different. You don't play with desperation. You play with certainty." That gave me chills. Because he was right. I didn't doubt anymore. Not in the old way. Sure, there were difficult days, moments where my mind tried to pull me back into fear. But I had learned to recalibrate quickly. Breathing. Visualization. The phrase, "The victory already exists." "Carlos," I asked, "do you believe in manifestation?" He laughed softly. "My son, I came from the Philippines with $200 in my pocket in 1998. Today I have 3 rental houses and both my sons graduated from the University of South Florida. Everything I have, I dreamed first." We stayed in silence for a moment. "Your numbers are going to hit," he said, handing me my ticket. "I don't know when, but they will. I feel it." I left there with my heart racing. Not because Carlos had predicted something, but because he had mirrored the frequency I was cultivating. When you sustain a vibration long enough, the world begins to reflect it back. But I had no idea that only 8 months remained. September 2022. A year and a half playing the same numbers. I was exhausted. Not from the ritual, but from the internal resistance. You know that voice that whispers you're crazy? It had gotten louder in recent weeks. My refrigerator had broken down, and I had to buy a used one on Facebook Marketplace. The car needed new brakes, but I'd been putting it off for months. Emma had asked me for a new laptop for school, and I had to ask Sarah to split it on her credit card, promising to pay half, a promise that deeply embarrassed me. On Friday, September 22nd, I almost didn't buy the ticket. I was sitting in my pickup in the warehouse parking lot, looking at my account balance. $156. Rent was due in 5 days. I had asked my boss for an advance, but he said not until next week. $20, I thought. $20 that could become gas. Food. But then I closed my eyes. I breathed. And I felt that strange thing in my chest. Not hope exactly, but commitment. I had made a promise to myself. To the numbers. To the universe. And I didn't break promises. I went to the gas station. Carlos was there as always. He greeted me with that familiar wave. I filled out the ticket. 7-14-23-31-42, Powerball 9. I closed my eyes. 30 seconds. I felt the texture of the winning ticket. I heard Emma's laughter. I felt the gratitude as if it had already happened. "Today's the day," Carlos said when he handed me the ticket. I laughed, not completely believing but also not doubting. "You say that every week, Carlos." "No," he said, serious this time. "I say it when I feel it. And today I feel it." I went home. I put the ticket in the same place as always, folded inside my wallet, next to Emma's photo. The drawing was at 11 at night. I usually checked the next day without anxiety. Part of the protocol was to detach from the result and trust the process. But that night, something kept me awake. At 11:17, I grabbed my phone and opened the Powerball website. The numbers began to appear on the screen, one by one. 7. My heart jumped. 14. I sat up straight in bed. 23. My hands started to shake. 31. I couldn't breathe. 42. Tears began to fall uncontrollably. And then the Powerball. 9. The room fell into absolute silence. The kind of silence that seems to suck all the air out. I looked at my phone. I looked at the ticket in my hand. I looked at my phone again. All 6 numbers. I had just won $45 million. I fell to my knees on the bedroom floor and began to sob. Not from joy, not yet. It was something deeper. It was validation. Validation that I wasn't crazy. That the repetition, the ritual, the intelligent faith, the frequency, all of it was real. The universe had answered. But the story wasn't over yet. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the bedroom floor holding the ticket, trembling. At 4 in the morning, I called the official Powerball line just to confirm I wasn't going crazy. The automated recording confirmed the numbers. It was real. The first call I made was to Carlos. "Hello." His voice was hoarse with sleep. "Carlos, it's me. John." They hit. Silence on the other end. Then a deep, emotional laugh. "I knew it. I knew it, my brother. I knew it." The second call was the most important one. "Dad." Emma's voice was confused. It was 6 in the morning in Oregon. "Hi, sweetheart. Sorry to wake you early. Is everything okay? Are you crying?" I wiped the tears. "Emma, do you remember I always told you we were going to Disney?" "Yes, Dad, but why are you asking that now?" "We're going. And not just to Disney. We're going to Paris. To Japan. Anywhere you want. And you're going to take dance classes. And have the best laptop. And whatever college you choose is already paid for." "Dad, what are you talking about?" "I won the lottery, sweetheart. $45 million. Her silence lasted forever. Then she started crying. And I cried with her. 3 months later, after the lawyers, the taxes, the financial planning, I was sitting in a cafe in Ybor City, Tampa, with a notebook open in front of me. I had $28 million deposited after taxes. I had bought a modest house, not a mansion. I learned that frequency can't be bought. Emma was in an incredible private school near me. Sarah had agreed she could spend the school year in Tampa. I had created a complete educational fund for her. But the strangest part? I didn't feel different. I mean, my external life had changed radically. But internally, I had already lived this reality for a year and a half. Every Tuesday and Friday for 30 seconds, I was this man. Rich, free, grateful. When victory finally came, it was almost like recognition. Like meeting someone you already knew. In the notebook, I wrote the lessons I wanted to teach Emma. Numbers aren't luck, they're frequencies. Choose the ones that have meaning. Repetition with emotion creates vibrational coherence. Live in the desired end before it happens. Doubt will appear. Recalibrate and return to the frequency. The universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to certainty. I closed the notebook and looked out the window. Carlos was crossing the street coming my way. I had scheduled coffee with him. When he sat down, I slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" he asked. $200,000. For you to retire. Or do whatever you want. He went pale. "John, I can't. You were the first person who saw what I was doing. You sustained the frequency with me even without knowing it. Accept it." He held the envelope with trembling hands, tears in his eyes. "Do you know what this means to my family?" "I know exactly what it means. Because I know what it meant to me when you said, 'Your numbers are going to hit.' You weren't predicting the future, Carlos. You were confirming the frequency." We sat in silence, 2 men who understood something the world calls luck, but we knew was inner science. Today, when people ask me how I won $45 million, I don't talk about luck. I talk about frequency. about transforming numbers into bridges between past and future, about sustaining a vibration even when external reality screams the opposite. The truth that quantum physics teaches us is simple: you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And you become what you repeat with emotion and meaning. Those numbers, 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, 9, weren't magical. What was magical was the ritual, the conscious repetition, the emotional anchoring, the refusal to give up the frequency. I didn't play the lottery for 2.5 years. I lived as a winner for 2.5 years. And when the universe finally mirrored that back, I was ready. Because victory didn't begin when the numbers hit. It began the day I decided they meant something. And that anyone can do. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to remember: victory begins in frequency, not in luck.